ESPN dropped their all-quarter century team for the 2000s and had a glaring omission. We right that wrong as we provide our all-quarter century team for the 2000s for the Arizona Cardinals. Larry Fitzgerald, yes, he makes the team, but who joins Larry Legend? Who's throwing him the football? We answer that right now. Bo Brock, PHNX Cardinals. Drop a like, subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. Let's start on the defensive side of the football, and man, it is not short on talent. Let's get to the defensive line. My goodness, lots of options to pick from, but we landed on two big, beefy fellas. How about Calais Campbell making his return to the desert, his 10th season with the Cardinals, and man, his first stint, it was great, and he is going to go down as an all-time player for the franchise. He makes our all-quarter century team. Drafted 2008. He's up there over 100 sacks. 9-0, Darnell Dockett is going to be his running mate there on the D-line. It was a tough one. Bertrand Berry, I think, got some run here, got some consideration, but Dockett, he had over 40 sacks. How about 3 of those in the biggest game possible, the Super Bowl against Ben Roethlisberger? We give 9-0 the edge next to Calais. Love that up front. As far as your edge rushers, it was an easy one. Slam dunk. Chandler Jones, after being acquired from the New England Patriots in 2016, only 2 other pass rushers had more sacks during his stint and tenure with the Cardinals in the NFL. Chandler, the Cardinals' all-time sack leader. Easy answer there. Then it was a little bit tougher on the other side, but we went with the junkyard dog, Marcus Golden, who they selected out of Missouri way back when, where I think, he came back to the Cardinals and had another productive stint with the Redbirds. He gets the edge there. He had a couple other guys who had some cups of coffee, Jonathan Abraham, you had Dwight Freeney. I think you could look at J.J. Watt, who played about conservatively like a season and a quarter for the Cardinals. But those are your defensive front players. Let's finish up the defensive front 7 with the off-ball linebackers. And Carlos Dansby, a fan favorite. Los, couple different stints with the Cardinals. A guy that could take the football away, could rush the passer, but he also was sideline to sideline at the inside linebacker position. It was heartbreaking when he initially left for the Browns, but it was great to see him return to the desert and then also kind of have a career resurgence during that time. And then a polarizing player, Darrell Washington, second-round pick out of TCU, was at one point an all-pro, one of the best inside linebackers, middle linebackers in the league, but then had off-the-field issues, but can't deny how talented he was. He joins Los as far as the middle linebackers on this team. It was easy. Patrick Peterson, 8-time Pro Bowler. He's your top corner. CB1 would travel with the opposing team's top wide receiver. He's there. But just like his Cardinals career, it was tough to figure out who's going to play the corner position opposite P2. We landed on DRC, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. There were a couple other options there. Aeneas Williams did play in the 2000s, so he fit the criteria, but just one season before being traded away to the St. Louis Rams at the time. And then Antonio Cromartie, with his vast family roster and good play on the field, he was judged by Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, 13 picks in 3 seasons before being dealt away, and that infamous Kevin Cobb deal. Now, here's where things really get great for the Cardinals in this defense. The back end, where they were absolutely stacked at the safety position. The 2 starting safety spots we give to A-Dub Adrian Wilson. He was in the 25-25 club, meaning he had 25 and a half sacks, 27 picks. He was a playmaker for this defense. And then Budda Baker. Budda Baker has just been a perennial Pro Bowler for this team. He's been an All-Pro. He's been a do-it-all type of guy. He gets the edge probably just because of longevity with the franchise that drafted him out of the second round from Washington over Tyrann Mathieu. But Mathieu, the Honey Badger, makes this defense as your slot nickel cornerback. And look at this D. It's tough to beat. I think can beat with any of the all-quarter century teams around the league. Let's have some fun and get to the offensive side of the football. We'll start with the offensive line. The Arizona Cardinals, the old steady Lyle Sindeline, who's been the longest tenured center at that position. He's there. You took into consideration maybe an AQ Shipley, maybe a current Cardinal and Yelda Froholt, but we went with Lyle there at center to steady things. Deuce Latuli, one of Kurt Warner's favorite offensive linemen at the right guard spot. Considered Will Hernandez for that, considered Leonard Davis, but most of his success came as a member of the Dallas Cowboys. And then we're just going to say the other tackle spot opposite left tackle, because DJ Humphries was primarily left tackle during his Cardinals tenure, but we've got him slotted in at right tackle. Not a big pot to pick from there as far as successful tackles during this Cardinals quarter century team in the 2000s. Mike Iupati was an unbelievable left guard, probably the best in franchise history after he came over on a big free agent deal from San Francisco, continued his run as a Pro Bowler. You got him at a left guard, and then Jared Valdir, maybe the best pass-blocking left tackle that this franchise has ever had. He's holding down the blind side of the quarterback who will tell you made the cut here for our all-century team, quarter-century team. Playmakers, we'll start with the tight end position, the most futile position since the Cardinals moved to the desert in the late 80s. But Trey McBride has changed things, emphatically. I mean, this is a guy that had 1,100 yards receiving last year, only stands behind in franchise history behind Jackie Smith for the single season record. He went over 1,200 yards. But Trey McBride, we're all McBride's maids. He's your quarter century tight end. Let's get to the rest of the playmakers because it's fun. We write it the wrong. Larry Fitzgerald, he is your wide receiver. One of this team, Larry Legend, number one in all major statistical categories across the board for wide receivers during the 21st century. We're not ESPN. We're not going to make enraging decisions to leave him off. He is in there, and he is the best in franchise history. Anquan Bolden, man, he's unbelievable. His first season, one of the best you've seen from a rookie, and then he continued to do it at a high level before, of course, unceremoniously dealt out of the Cardinals organization, went on to have a great career. Q makes our team opposite Larry Fitzgerald, and then the debate starts to heat up a little bit. Wide receiver 3, this was a tough one to decide on, but we give the edge to D-Hop. He played for the Cardinals after being acquired in one of the better deals that we've seen, especially one of the better ones from Steve Keim. He came over from Houston, offloaded the David Johnson contract, and just gave up a second-round pick, got D-Hop in return, and he gave Kyler Murray a bona fide, number one wideout, at the end of Larry Fitzgerald's career there. DeAndre Hopkins edged out, kind of a surprise name here. You have to go early in the 2000s. David Boston, but it was closer than I anticipated. See, D. Boston played a few more games, had 223 receptions, just 2 more than D-Hop, 3,400 yards, 18 touchdowns, 1 more touchdown there. But the thing was, his best season is the best, arguably, in franchise history, nearly 1,600 yards receiving, and was an all-first team, all-pro. But D-Hop, just on a game-by-game basis, was a little bit better than David Boston, so we give him the edge at wide receiver 3. Running back was also a tough decision. You had James Conner and David Johnson, the Humble Rumble, and David Johnson's 2016 season with 20 total touchdowns and nearly went to, 1,000 as far as his yards rushing the ball and catching the football. Over 2,000 yards from scrimmage, absolute beast, offensive player of the year conversation, MVP caliber season. That's where he gets the edge, where, James Conner now entering year 5 with this franchise. He certainly makes a case for himself, but we give it to DJ here. Finish it up with the quarterback position. And there are 3 guys that made their case, but you can't overlook and discount taking the Cardinals to their Super Bowl appearance and leaving the field with the lead. Kurt Warner is your QB1, edges out Carson Palmer, Kyler Murray, whose case I think is a little closer than people would admit. But Kurt Warner, 4,600 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, 40 picks in his best year for the Cardinals. While Carson Palmer might have the GOAT season by a Cardinals quarterback, 4,600 yards passing, 35 touchdowns, 11 picks, 104.6 passer rating, and led the Cardinals to a 13-3 season and an NFC Championship appearance. He lost out to Cam Newton, who was unbelievable that year, and of course went to the Super Bowl over the Cardinals. And then Kyler Murray's best year, 2020, he had the 37 total touchdowns. He had 819 yards rushing with nearly 4,000 yards passing. An incredible year for K1. And of course, he's the longest tenured quarterback. I think that means something. And Kyler can still prove something. But as far as the start of the 21st century, your quarter century team, Kurt Warner, Hall of Famer, he's your quarterback. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? Drop a comment, leave a like on this video, and of course, subscribe to PHNX Sports.